Kinich. He's a new Dendro Shao who's releasing in the second phase of 5.0. Now starting off with Kinich's kit, his normal attacks don't matter much unless you use his skill, so let's focus on that first. So using his skill has two benefits. You can either use his skill to attack opponents, or you can use his skill to traverse around the map. So if there are enemies nearby, Kinich will grapple onto them with his skill and enter Night Soul's Blessing with 0 Night Soul points. We'll talk more about this in a bit. And if there's nothing that's attackable nearby and you use his skill, he'll throw a grappling hook in the air, which will help him travel around the map easily, and along with this, his skill cooldown will also be reduced by 60%. Now going back to where he attacks an enemy and enters Night Soul Blessing, let's further understand how that works. So Kinich's Night Soul Blessing lasts for 10 seconds, and when you use his normal attacks in this state, he'll fire projectiles towards the target he is grappled onto. These are also known as loop shots. Now, unlike other characters who start with certain amounts of Night Soul points after entering Night Soul Blessing, Kinich starts with 0 Night Soul points. And how that works is, after entering Night Soul Blessing state, he'll gain 2 Night Soul points every second, and on top of that, if you use his normal attacks and hit the opponents, he'll gain 3 additional points. And lastly, there are also going to be something called the blind spots, which appear behind the grappled target, and if you enter these zones, you gain 4 more Night Soul points. Now the benefit or point of gaining these Night Soul points is that after you reach the max limit, which is 20, you'll be able to use his skill again and shoot out a massive projectile, which has a huge multiplier. How huge, you ask? This huge. So usually how you'd want to go about using Kinich is, you grapple onto someone, spam normal attacks, gain points, use skill to use those points, and repeat. Going to his burst, it's rather simple. After using it, you unleash the power of the Dragon Lord Ajah. Those who don't know, this small guy calls himself the Almighty Dragon Lord Ajah. Anyhow, after using it, you deal AoE Dendro damage, and Ajah will use his Dragon's Breath too at intervals and deal AoE Dendro damage as well. So, in short, Kinich's gameplay revolves around his elemental skill. It's not only great for damage but for mobility and exploration inside of Natlan too. Now going to his passives, his first passive pretty much pushes you to use him with a burning team. As now after an enemy gets hit by his elemental skill, they will enter the desolation state. And if they are now affected by burning or burgeon reactions, they will restore 7 Night Soul points to Kinich, and points this way can only be gained once every 0.8 seconds. His second passive allows you to increase his cannon damage even more, so after your party members trigger Night Soul Burst, Kinich gains 1 stack of Hunter's experience that lasts for 15 seconds, and every single stack increases the cannon's damage by 320% of attack. Also, you can also have a maximum of 2 stacks of this. For those of you who don't know what a Night Soul Burst is, it's a mechanic which is unique to Natlan's characters, as if you have a party member from Natlan, in this case Kinich, and he deals elemental damage to enemies, he'll trigger Night Soul Burst. Moving on, normally while using Kinich's skill, you can only swing midair once, but with his third passive, you can perform a second midair swing at the cost of 10 phlogiston points. Additionally, you'll be able to interact with these coilgrass sigils. Finally, in his fourth passive, resources unique to Natlan will appear on your minimap, and interacting with some harvestable items will grant you a 15% movement boost for 10 seconds. Finally, looking at his constellations. In his C1, after Kinich lands from his mid-air swings, his movement speed will be increased by 30% for 6 seconds, and his skill's cannon's crit damage will be increased by 100%. In his C2, when his skill hits an opponent, it will decrease their dendro resistance by 30% for 6 seconds, and additionally his skill's cannon has increased AoE, and its damage increases by 100%. His C3 simply increases his skill level by 3. C4 restores energy for him. How it does that is, while in his Night Soul Blessing mode, and you use loop shots or use his skills cannon, Kinich will restore 5 energy. This can only be triggered once every 2.8 seconds, and additionally his burst damage is also increased by 70%. C5 just increases the burst level by 3. Finally, his C6 once again buffs his cannon shots. What it does is that now the cannon projectiles can bounce between opponents once, dealing 700% of Kinich's attack as dendro damage. Talking about his constellations, his best constellation so far has to be either C2 or C4, since they increase the overall damage of Kinich by a lot. His C1 isn't bad either, but it's very situational, and to even use it while fighting, you've got to turn into Spider-Man since it only activates when you land after using mid-air swings. Now moving to his build section, firstly let's look at Kinich himself. At level 90, he gains a crit damage bonus of 38.4%. Furthermore, his talent leveling priority should follow this order: Elemental skill first, Elemental burst second, and finally normal attack. Talking about his weapons, his best weapon is going to be his signature, called the Mountain King Fang. What it does is that it gives the equipper 1 Canopy's favor stack after hitting an opponent with an elemental skill, and if a party member triggers Burning or Burgeon reaction, they gain 3 stacks. Now what these stacks do is that each Canopy's favor stack increases elemental skill and burst damage by 10% for 6 seconds. Also, you can have a maximum of 6 stacks. If you don't have the Primogems to get his signature weapon and want some other alternatives, here are some other options. For 5-star claymores, you have Beacon of the Reed Sea, Verdict, Redhorn Stone Thresher, and Wolf's Gravestone. Let's look at some 4-star claymores too. You can either use the Serpent Spine, the Earth Shaker, or the Talking Stick. Other than these, you can also go with any claymore that gives attack or crit buffs, so if you're a new player, yes, you can even go with Prototype Archaic. Talking about his artifacts, his best in slot is going to be the artifact that was newly released with Natlan, called Obsidian Codex, because it's specially knitted for Natlan characters. Looking at the main stats priority, you'd want to go with attack percentage on Sands, Dendro damage bonus on Goblet, and either crit rate or crit damage on Circlet. As for the substats priority, go with crit rate or damage, attack percentage, and energy recharge. Now, if you're too lazy to go through the pain of farming this domain over and over again, and then be continuously getting defense for 2 months straight, and finally—
Please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump. Please. I'm asking you. Please save me.
Sticking to the topic, if you're too lazy to farm this new set, let's see some alternatives. Firstly, we got Deepwood Memories, but instead of having it on Kinich, it'd be better to have it on another Dendro unit in your team. But if you have no one in your team equipped with this set, then it's a good option for him. Other than this, you can also go with Unfinished Reverie since it's really good if you use Kinich in Burning teams, as his kit buffs him even more if Burning is present. Finally, if you plan to run Kinich with me, you can also go with Marichussi Hunter. Taking a recap, Kinich is a versatile Dendro DPS character with a kit that blends mobility and damage. His gameplay and damage revolves around his elemental skill, which allows him to grapple onto enemies or traverse the map. And in combat, he builds up Night Soul points, which he then uses to unleash powerful cannon shots. His burst just provides additional AoE Dendro damage, and all of these together make him a really strong Dendro unit. As for team preference, Kinich naturally prefers teams that trigger Burning or Burgeon reactions, thanks to that one passive. However, his reliance on building up Night Soul points and positioning might make him less straightforward to play compared to other DPS characters. So if you enjoy characters with high mobility and a skill-based playstyle, Kinich is 100% worth pulling. I haven't added a team guide, as personally I'm the type to just use any comp and make it work. Still, do tell me if you guys need a team comps video and I'll make one.